everyone, Bandit here. Welcome to the Bandit Flight Simmer channel, and welcome to the next episode of our flight around the world in the Diamond DA62 in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. And today we're going to be departing from Kirkwall, and we're going to be doing a sightseeing trip all the way down through Scotland and England, and finishing up in London City Centre Airport. So we finally got some good weather. It's been crappy weather in Scotland, and finally got good weather, some just high broken cloud or high scattered cloud and light winds, so should be a great day for sightseeing. So to save some time, we got lots of sights to see along the way, so I've got the airplane all ready to go. We're going to be taking off and heading down south towards Scotland, and so let's get in the air and get going. Full power. Temperatures and pressures are good, airspeed's alive. It's 80 knots. And positive rate, gears up. Knots. We'll get the flaps up. Start our right turn out. Not going to be going too high. I'll try to stay about 1,500 feet above ground, and just get our last look at Kirkwall here before we leave. There's the town there. Off we go down towards our first stop along the way, which will be Loch Ness. So what I'm going to do, I'll do the post takeoff check here. So we got the gear is up, flaps are up, got our boost pumps off, get our landing light off, and everything looks good. So what we'll do is I'll level off here at about 2,000 now, and we'll cruise on down at this altitude. Might have to climb a little bit as we get a little closer to the Highlands, but want to stay as low as we can and be able to see the sights along the way. So I'll talk to you as we get a little closer to Loch Ness, which is just over 100 miles away. Hey everybody, we're just coming up to Loch Ness, and we're just flying by the town of Inverness, Scotland, and that's at the northern part of the Scottish Highlands. And it's a decent sized town, and that's probably where you're going to stay if you're going to visit Loch Ness. And here's the start of Loch Ness right up here. So we're going to fly up and we'll go down nice and low and see if we can spot Nessie on the way down to the end of Loch Ness here. So here we are flying down Loch Ness at 500 feet, and it's a beautiful clear day. I've been lucky enough to have been here a few times in real life, and never had very good weather when I was here. It was rainy and foggy, and so might have a good chance of seeing Nessie today. So we'll keep an eye out as we head down the loch here. And over on the right here, it's not depicted very well in the simulator, but this is where Urquhart Castle would be, and it's the ruins of a castle. And yeah, they don't have it depicted very well here, but it's definitely a highlight of Loch Ness when you come visit here. The loch or lake is about 20 miles long, so it's a nice long lake. So I'll keep an eye out for Nessie, and maybe we have a chance of seeing her. If I do spot her, I'll let you know. Well, we're almost at the end of the loch here, and I haven't spotted Nessie yet, so just keep a look out a little bit more here. Anyway, once we get past the loch here, we're just going to continue on. Oh, hold on, what's that over there? Something sticking out of the water. Could that be Nessie there? I think it could be. Okay, we're coming down to see a fly past here of Eilean Donan Castle. Just passing, it's built on a little island there. We'll be passing down our right hand side. Let's go outside and take a look. Very typical to build castles on islands. Very cool. Now we'll head off to our next waypoint, which I think takes us to the Glenfinnan Viaduct. Okay, so now we're coming down a valley here, and we're going to be flying by the Glenfinnan Viaduct. We should see it here momentarily. And if you've ever seen the Harry Potter movies and the train, when they go up to Hogwarts, they take the old Scottish train, English train, and it goes up to Hogwarts, and there's the viaduct right there. Iconic shot in the Harry Potter movies of the train flying over going over the viaduct there. Stop outside and take a look. I was fortunate enough to have visited here too, but it was pouring rain, and we had to wait a few hours for the train to come by. It wasn't very enjoyable, but it was a cool, iconic scene, that's for sure. Okay, here we are. We're flying up in the Scottish Highlands here, and I think we're coming by Balmoral Castle, which is a favorite haunt of Queen Elizabeth and her family. Like to come up here to hunt. And it's a beautiful old castle in the valley here. Yeah, very nice. And this is typical of the Highlands. Oh, you see, you have to be very careful where you're going here when you're looking out the window. This is very typical of the Highlands. You have these river valleys that have a few trees in them, but then you get up in the hills here and it's very sparse for the trees here. And very typical of the Scottish Highland scenery. Okay, so here we are over on the east coast of Scotland, and for you golfers out there, we are flying by St Andrews, the iconic golf course in Scotland where quite often the British Open is played. And it's right by the town of St Andrews here. So we're going to just have a little fly past here and see how the golf course looks. I think with the weather here being less than stellar, quite often it's a very challenging course to play with the winds coming off the North Sea here. There's the famous St Andrews Lakes. There's the first hole you tee off right there, I think. And this is the little town of St Andrews right next door. It's quite a pretty little town in Scotland. That was interesting. So I think the weather's improving here on the east coast, so now we'll head off to our next point of interest, which is over towards Stirling and Edinburgh area of Scotland. So I'll see you as we get there. Okay, we're coming up to our next point here, and this is the town of Stirling in Scotland. That's coming up straight ahead of us. And you'll see just off the nose, just slightly to the right there, there's a monument there that's called the Wallace Monument after a guy named Wallace. I don't know all the history of it, but it's quite prominent on top of a hill. And then on the other hill, off in the distance, that's where we should see Stirling Castle. There's a nice exterior view of the Wallace Monument. Stirling Castle was built in the 1500s, and it's an interesting castle because it's one of the few castles that has actually been restored inside. So most of the castles you go into in Scotland and England are just the stone edifice of the structure that remains. And so this castle here, off on our left, has been restored. Quite a few of the main rooms have been restored inside, so it is depicted how it would have been lived in the 1500s. So it's quite interesting place to visit. So as we get up to it here, we'll have a little flyby and take a look at Stirling Castle on top of the hill. They sure like to build their castles on hills here. It's a great view of Stirling Castle. There's church there too on top of the hill. So now we'll head off to our next viewpoint. Our next point of interest we're going to fly by here is called the Kelpies, and their horse structure, horse statue. It's built at the entrance to a canal system here in Scotland, and I think they're one of the highest, largest horse structures built in the world. It was built less than 10 years ago. Okay, now we're coming up to Edinburgh, and this is Edinburgh Castle. You can just see it in the left corner of the windscreen there. We're just going to fly by, have a look at the left side here. And this is a very historic part of Scotland, and this is where they hold the annual tattoo, which is the Scottish Bagpipe Festival. So here's a fly past of Edinburgh Castle, another castle on a hill. You see that big flat area, that's where they hold the annual tattoo, which is the bagpipe competition. That's held there every year. Here's the external fly past of Edinburgh Castle. And as you go further out here, that's the old historic part of the city of Edinburgh, very old part of the city. Okay, so we'll press on to our next viewpoint. Okay, now we're coming up to our next viewpoint, and it's called Fountain Abbey. And it's one of the oldest, best ruined abbey in England, and this is northern England now, and there it is there. And I'll just give you the external flyby of that so we can have a better look at it. So our next viewpoint, we're coming up to the town of Warwick here, and we're going to fly by Warwick Castle, which is a 12th century medieval castle. And it was originally built on an old wooden fort that was originally built by William the Conqueror. Back in about 1000 AD there. So it certainly goes back quite a few years. up on the left-hand side here. It's Warwick Castle. Okay, now we're coming up to one of the most iconic landmarks in the UK. Oh, I think we just, oh, there's right there, Stonehenge. So we'll have to hop outside for an external view of that. Almost missed it as we flew by. That was built back in the early periods between 3000 and 2000 BC. And a short hop from Stonehenge, we're going to fly by Salisbury Cathedral near the town of Salisbury. It's only about 5 miles down the road here, so we'll go right to the external view for that as we fly by Salisbury Cathedral. So here we are coming up to the town of Salisbury, and the cathedral is not hard to miss in the center of town here. It's one of the biggest buildings. And it's definitely one of the better cathedrals to visit in England if you get a chance. Okay, head back inside the cockpit here and we'll head off to London now. Getting kind of low on gas, so it's a good thing we're almost done, because this has been a long trip. It's been over 5 hours and down low level here. Been burning a lot of fuel at high power settings, climbing, descending, so it's not very efficient. So I think we've pretty much extended the capabilities of this airplane for a long flight like this. So I'll catch up with you as we approach into London and see some of the major sights of London before we land at London City Centre. Okay, here we are back. We're just on the outskirts of London, and the first place we're going to fly by is Windsor Castle, just coming up off to the left there, so I'll just kind of head in that direction. Kind of see it just in the corner there of the windscreen on the hill. So we are getting pretty low on gas. We got both our low fuel lights on here, and if we zoom in on our fuel quantity, we're down to about probably 5 gallons total. So it's a good thing we're pretty close to landing here. We're about 10 minutes away from the airport in London City Centre. We've got about 20-25 minutes of fuel left. So there's Windsor Castle, so we'll do a little flyby there, and then we'll just head on in from there. You can see, I think Heathrow Airport is just off in the distance. Right, oh, there it is right there, yeah. So that's the UK's major airport as well. So there's Windsor Castle. We'll do a little flyby of that. And we'll continue on into downtown London. And as I said, that's Heathrow off in the distance there. So normally you wouldn't be able to fly this close to the airport like this and fly over Windsor Castle, but luckily we're in a flight simulation game here, so we can do it. Yeah, that would be a very busy airport. So as we enter into London here, we'll be picking up the Thames River, and then following that, downtown and London City Centre Airport is right on the Thames River in downtown London. It's one of the few major city centre airports in the world, and that's where we're going to land and finish our trip today. So as we go by Heathrow here, I'll catch up with you a few minutes ahead here as we get into downtown London. Okay, here we are. We're coming into downtown London, and be a few sights to see on the way in here, I'm sure. That's the Thames River here in downtown. And as we see, it's getting dusk here as we come into the city here. And I think right over here, first thing we're going to see is that's Hyde Park over there, and I think that might be Buckingham Palace just off to the right here. Yep, there's the Buckingham Palace. It's the Queen's residence. Just coming up over the engine there. And there's Big Ben just coming up on the left on the big Ferris wheel in downtown. There's Big Ben. I think that's called the Eye, the Ferris wheel. I think that's St. Paul's Cathedral over there. Continue into the Thames here. There's the Tower Bridge. There's City Centre Airport right on the nose there, so we'll just get ready to land here. So I'll just climb up to get above these buildings and start slowing down here. And we got our landing light on. We kept it on for the low-level flying that we've been doing. So we get our gear down, and our first notch of flap. We're getting on final approach here. Bit of a tailwind, but I think the winds are light on the ground here, so it should be okay. Lots of runway, speed's coming back. And we'll get our landing flap in. So gear is down and flaps are at land. It looks like we're low on approach, but we're actually not that low. Those landing indicators show 4 red, but it's set up for a steep approach. Normally the airplanes that come in here have to fly a very steep approach to get in here, stay over the city, so but we're not going to come in that steep. Here we are, final. Power back. Touchdown. Get it stopped. Try to make off this first exit here. And welcome to London City Centre Airport. Okay, well, that concludes this episode. Thanks for joining me today. We saw lots of great sights on this flight, that's for sure. And if you look at our gas, we were definitely as tight as you would ever want to take it with fuel here. So, I mean, luckily the weather was good and we had lots of airports around here to land if we needed to, but that's about as tight as I would want to go on the gas. So, it's quite a long flight, but we saw lots of great sights. And next flight, we're going to be taking off out of here and heading to France. And it'll be some nice sights, I'm sure, to see on our trip through France. And I'm not sure where we're going to end up on the next leg, but make sure if you want to join me that you hit subscribe and sign up for the notifications, and you'll be able to join us on our next leg of our trip around the world. So hope you enjoy the flight, and we'll see you next time. Bandit out.